So I don't know if y'all remember this right before COVID, right when COVID broke out back in March of 2020. It's hard to believe it was so long ago, right? There was an odd thing that happened, or at least I thought it was odd. And what it was the great toilet paper shortage. Do y'all remember that? They had basically, people had kind of gone to the store and taken all the toilet paper. They had literally wiped clean the shelves. Get it? No. Well, I tried to figure this out. I tried to flush out the answer of why this was. Why toilet paper? I guess I get it. I understand why toilet paper. But it just seemed an odd thing. And people wrote about this. There were articles in the New York Times and Washington Post. And basically they attributed it to this kind of panic, right? This sense of fear that that there'd be this scarcity of all things, toilet paper. So there's this connection between fear and scarcity in some ways. And people were very, enough fearful that they would buy so much toilet paper that there wasn't enough to go around. It's interesting to me, it's ironic to me that this connection between fear and scarcity, because there is a strong connection between fear and scarcity. In fact, it was ironic as I thought about this. It may be too clever. I said the words scare and scarcity sound a lot alike if you think about it. And it strikes me that we very much so live in a society that views the world in terms of scarcity. Is it not? We ourselves probably think in terms of scarcity. I don't have enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough of something. And it's always scarce. And in this hyper-capitalist, this consumer-oriented world in which the society in which we live, we're constantly bombarded with messages through commercials and social media articulating what we lack, right? That we need something in order to be fulfilled. And I think it's true in fact, we might even hear this in politics, that part of what motivates us is a fear that there's not enough to be shared, right? And politicians scare us. Well, someone's going to take away what you have because there's not enough. It's a belief in the scarcity of the world around us. And it's kind of hard for us to escape that worldview, truth be told. I know I'm often worried. I don't have enough. I don't have enough safety. I don't have enough time. I don't for sure have enough energy. I never have enough. So it's not surprising to me that the story we read this morning begins very much so with disciples who live in a sense of scarcity. And it's very obvious at the very beginning because they've been working and helping and doing great things for the crowd, helping teach Jesus' message. And Jesus notices and says, guys, we need to go to a deserted place because you're wearing yourself out. You don't even have enough time to eat. So you need to come and find a space in which you can be refilled. And the problem, of course, is the disciples go to this deserted place along with Jesus, and this crowd who's hungry for God's message of compassion is expressed, hungry to see the miracles of Jesus, hungry to learn what Jesus is teaching them. And they just all come along with them. And it gets to be time And the disciples come to Jesus and say, hey, we need to do something about this, right? There's a lot of people here, 5,000, over 5,000, and it's getting time to eat, and we need to send them home. There's no way we're going to be able to feed this whole crowd ourselves. And Jesus says, much to their shock, you feed them. And the disciples are going, what? It'll cost us 200 denarii. Now, a single denarii was what a day laborer would earn in a single day. So what the disciples are saying is, this is over half a year of wages that we would need to have in order to buy enough food to feed all these people. So maybe they divided up, maybe they thought, well, maybe we can divide up a stewardship committee. We'll do a campaign or something. We'll find the 200 denarii. We'll figure it out, I guess. I don't know how. It'd be impossible. There's no way. We don't have enough, right? And then Jesus asked them the question that I think is at the heart of a question we all should wrestle with, as bizarre as it sounds. What's the question Jesus asked them? How much bread do you have? Maybe Jesus is asking you that question this morning. How much bread do you have to share with others? The disciples, not much, right? I got 5 loaves and 2 fish. This is all we could find. That's all the bread we got. There's no way this is going to work, right? How much bread do you have? And the amazing truth of the miracle is that it is enough, right? It's enough to feed all those people. Now, a lot of people and appropriately so, might look at this and say, well, Jesus kind of multiplied. And the title for this passage might be, Jesus multiplies the loaves and fish. And so Jesus did some magic or whatever, and I think that's an appropriate, Jesus has some amazing miracles. But I think what the amazing part of the miracle of this story is somehow Jesus took those 5 loaves and 2 fish, and somehow it was enough to feed thousands. I kind of imagine that somehow this crowd began to find enough bread that they had to feed each other. That the real miracle isn't just that the 5 loaves and 2 fish became something that could feed thousands of people. The real miracle is Jesus convinced the disciples and convinced that crowd they were enough to feed each other. They had enough bread to feed each other, even though they didn't think they could. And the truth is, and part of the reason I think this miracle was so important to the early church is that was Jesus' message over and over and over again. To move us from this vision of the world as scarce. This vision of the world is to be fearful and to only see scarcity, and instead to see a world filled with joy and abundance. There's enough for everyone. God's love is enough. It isn't stingy or scarce. God's love abounds everywhere and fills all your lives. I think the church gets in trouble when it tries to hoard God's love, when it tries to make it something that's scarce, when in fact it abounds everywhere. Walter Brueggemann, he's a Hebrew scholar, a scholar of the Old Testament. He wrote, and I thought this was appropriate, so appropriate. He wrote this line in this book he had, in which he says, "The Bible starts out with a liturgy of abundance. Genesis 1 is a song of praise for God's generosity. It tells how well the world is ordered. It keeps saying, it is good, it is good, it is good, it is very good. It declares that God blesses, that is, endows with vitality the plants, the animals, the fish, the birds of the air, and humankind. It pictures the Creator as saying, be fruitful and multiply. And in an orgy, Brueggemann says, of fruitfulness, everything in its kind is to multiply the overflowing goodness that pours from God's Creator Spirit. We have enough. And sometimes I think we as a church, sometimes when we are asked that question, how much bread do you have? Think, well, we don't have enough. This world's so big and it's so hurting and there's so much pain and people are so afraid. And we don't have enough people. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough things that can really make a dent, it feels like. But Jesus, over and over and over again, says to his disciples, and I believe says to us, you are enough. We are enough. So one last observation. It's interesting to me that in this story, and this occurs in all the stories of the feeding of the 5,000, that the actions of Jesus, it says, Jesus took the bread, Jesus blessed the bread, Jesus broke the bread, and Jesus gave the bread. Where else have you heard that? In fact, you will hear those very words when we do communion this morning. That on the night that Jesus was arrested, he took the bread and blessed the bread and broke the bread and gave the bread. Because we are enough. To God be the glory this morning and forevermore. Amen.